Misfits, before we jump into today's episode, I want to share something very special with you. After hosting over 450 episodes of the Misfit Entrepreneur and sitting down with some of the world's top founders, investors, and high performers, I started to notice something. Different industries, different backgrounds, different paths, but the same patterns kept showing up. So I distilled those patterns into a short, powerful guide called The Misfit Code: 21 Uncomfortable Truths from 450 plus Entrepreneurs. This isn't motivational fluff, it's not theory, and it's definitely not the recycled advice that you hear everywhere else. In fact, it's a fast-paced, practical playbook that you can read in one sitting and then apply immediately to help you execute better, raise your standards, break through to your next level. And if you know you're capable of more, or you feel like you've outgrown where you are, or if you're tired of knowing what to do but not executing consistently, this guide was created for you. You can download it for free right now by going to misfitentrepreneur.com/truths. That's misfitentrepreneur.com/truths. Grab the guide, read it in one sitting, and then come back and work through one misfit truth per day. All right, with that said, let's jump into today's episode. Hello, Misfit Entrepreneurs. This is Dave Lukas, and welcome to another episode of the Misfit Entrepreneur, where it's our job to help you unleash your inner misfit and break through to higher levels of success, wealth, and fulfillment by bringing you the best insight and wisdom from the world's top entrepreneurs, with a specific focus on their misfit side, the specific traits, habits, and secrets that have allowed them to thrive and succeed. As a reminder, if you're new to watching us on our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button below. Give this video a like and comment as well. We do our best to respond to all comments as timely as possible. Let me ask you something. What if you could turn just 100 YouTube views into $10,000 in revenue? Well, that's what we're going to talk about this week. This week's Misfit Entrepreneur is Nate Woodbury. He's CEO of Be the Hero Studios. He's a YouTube strategist with over 60 successful channels, and he's the genius behind one of the most practical and scalable YouTube lead generation systems out there. Nate's mastered the science of turning YouTube search into a pipeline of high-quality leads for coaches, consultants, speakers, and he doesn't just talk strategy, he implements it through a done-for-you system backed by a team of 35 experts. So whether you're trying to build a personal brand, become a thought leader in your niche, or simply want to grow predictable income from your content, Nate's lead strategy and SEO framework can really help you dominate search on YouTube, Google, and even AI platforms like ChatGPT. My goal is to squeeze every piece of advice from him and break down how YouTube can be your number one lead source. So talk about also why search beats viral strategies for most businesses and what it takes to become the go-to expert in your niche in as little as 4 months. So Nate, are you ready to unleash your inner misfit?
Yeah, let's dive right in.
Well, it's great to have you on the show, and you've kind of got a unique story on how you got to where you're at. So let's just take about 5 minutes or so and just tell us, how did you get to this point where you're doing this and helping people become, authorities on YouTube and generate this much revenue?
Well, if we rewind 15, 16 years ago when I started this company, I did custom website design, and I had an SEO service. I was able to get people's websites ranked at the top of Google. Well, I noticed something about 13 years ago, and that was I was looking at the data, and I found that one of the YouTube videos that we had used, because we did dozens of things to a page to get it ranked on Google, one of those pieces was a YouTube video. Well, the video over on YouTube was getting 50 times more views than this page ranking number one on Google, and that surprised me. And so I dug deeper and I found, oh, wow, here's another page. And look, the video is getting 50 times more views. I found many examples of it. So it wasn't just a fluke. And I ended up over the next couple of years just completely pivoting my business to focus on this one piece that was getting way more results. So it was way more efficient and way more effective in attracting your target audience and generating leads. So that's how it got started.
So, and does that still hold true today? Now that we've so much further along, is it still beating out, search and all that type of stuff still?
Yeah. So what I've found is it's actually working better today. Over the years, not only did I figure out how to get more views on YouTube, but as Google evolved and changed, we're now getting way more views on Google than back when we had websites ranking on Google. Google doesn't rank websites anymore. Google is no longer a website search engine. It's more of a content search engine. And a term that we're using today is it's now an answer engine. People go to Google still to ask their questions and they get answers. On Google specifically, you'll see the AI overview, you'll see ads, of
Mm-hmm.
course, and then you'll see YouTube videos because Google owns YouTube, and then you'll see blogs. If you're still wanting to do website SEO, don't worry about any of the tags or the metadata anymore. Don't worry about any of the backlinks, but creating blog posts that answer questions, that'll still get ranked on Google. And then the other part of your question is that still happening today? We're getting a lot of traffic now from ChatGPT and other AI tools,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's really a matter of, hey, if you make content that answers people's questions, it used to just work on YouTube, and now it's working on YouTube, Google, and ChatGPT.
So let's dig into that more. I guess we'll start high level. It's kind of piggybacks that. So tell us more about why, like YouTube specifically, is really kind of the ultimate platform for lead generation when compared to like the Instagrams or the TikToks or the other platforms that are out there.
Yeah, and it's a very good question. Why, when we post a really valuable piece of content to LinkedIn or to Facebook or to Instagram, why does that not really work for us? And let me define what work for us means. It does a great job of nurturing. So if you have LinkedIn connections or Facebook friends and you post something really valuable, those friends or those connections will see that and it will keep you top of mind. It will strengthen that relationship. But as far as a marketing tool, it doesn't do any good because your content is not indexed by topic. The way that I define marketing is getting in front of new people who've never heard of you before. So if you want to go beyond your friends and connections and bring in new people to join, how does you get your content in front of them? So if you make a piece of content that's really valuable, it has to be indexed and searchable by topic. And those platforms like Facebook, Twitter or X, Instagram, LinkedIn, you can't search by topic. You can only search by the person's name, or on LinkedIn, you can search for like your job title,
Mm.
but not by topic. So on YouTube, YouTube is indexed fully, meaning every single word that you say is transcribed automatically and it's indexed. Your video is also visually analyzed. So are your thumbnails. And so YouTube knows exactly what your video is about. So somebody who's never heard of you before, but is asking questions on your subject, they'll find your video because it is indexed. So YouTube is the biggest platform that is indexed. And that index is used by YouTube, Google, and ChatGPT.
Mm.
ChatGPT uses both Google and YouTube, so they kind of all work together. So that if you want your content to work as a marketing piece, use YouTube.
Interesting enough, I've had this conversation with others on before, and I see it coming too, and it's already happening by the way Google's changed. Like you said, it starts with the AI answer. People are going more and more to AI to ask the question. They're going to the Chat GPT and stuff like that, and I see traditional search kind of not going away, but definitely fading some. In fact, like the number one place that I think at least ChatGPT gets a lot of its answering from, or that it's looking at, is Reddit and things like that. And I guess YouTube must be right up there with it. Um, I mentioned in the opening, and you talk about making $10,000 from just 100 YouTube views. That, for most, would hear that and be like 100 views, you make $10,000. That seems pretty impossible. Like, break that down. Like, what's the math, the strategy behind that? How's that work?
Yeah, so I'll address that. You've actually mentioned a few things that I'll address there. So when ChatGPT is making recommendations, the number one website it recommends is actually Amazon to their product pages. So if there's a specific product people are needing to help them answer their question or solve their problem, the second recommended site is Wikipedia. Third is actually YouTube, and half of the videos are educational. Um, if you go down the list a bit further, you will find Reddit. Like you mentioned, Reddit is being recommended. And if any listeners know more about Reddit and how to actually leverage Reddit to post content and whatnot, I've had a hard time breaking into that space. But because AI tools like ChatGPT are referencing it so much, and it is indexed, that is something that I'm interested in looking into.
Mm-hmm.
And another point that you brought up that I'll address, um, back in May. So this is clear back in May, but I went to an SEO conference and I hadn't been to one for a long time, many years. I just wanted to see like what's going on in the industry because things have changed so
Mm-hmm.
much. And every like there were 22 speeches on the same topic, and they just worded it slightly different. I only attended a couple of them, and then I just looked up the summaries. I'm like, okay, I don't want to go to the same thing again. The topic was Google is no longer the answer; it's now AI, right? And I'm like, okay, yeah, we kind of get that. The reality is Google is still the answer. Google is still the biggest, most searched website. And even though ChatGPT has seemingly come out of nowhere and it's now the fifth most searched website, Google's still number one. YouTube's still number two. Google has grown. So it's not like traffic has left Google and gone to ChatGPT. Google's actually still grown, but we know that they've had their response AI answers. I don't like their answers as much as ChatGPT, but that's a debate of personal preference there. Okay. So it's kind of an interesting landscape. And again,
Mm-hmm.
I am, people can reach out to me to teach me about the ways of Reddit because I've been struggling there. YouTube makes it so easy. Okay. So now to your question of, how do you generate $10,000 from 100 views? Well, this is the opposite of what we typically see on YouTube. When you're creating entertaining content, you're trying to go viral. And the way that you make money is through YouTube's advertising, right? You can be an independent contractor with YouTube and they'll give you 55% of the ad spend for those ads. Typically, you need about 1 million views and that'll pay you $10,000. In fact, the check comes or the deposit comes from YouTube. So again, 1 million views on average comes out to about $10,000. And so then here, this guy, Nate Woodbury, comes along and says, oh, I can show you how to make $10,000 with just 100 views. How does that work? What does that look like? Well, when we're talking about YouTube search, those are the 100 views that I'm talking about. So when 100 people find you because they were searching for your expertise and you had a video that answered their question, we do it all the time. And the first time I started teaching that principle and using that number was with my client, Noelle Randall. She teaches real estate investing. She has a 6-month coaching program where she takes somebody that's new to real estate. And by the end of the 6 months, they'll have a vacation rental, like an Airbnb that will be positive cash flow. Right. So they'll be a profitable investor after 6 months. And the program costs $10,000. And so we followed the strategy I teach on YouTube. We made videos answering people's questions about real estate. And we found that when she got 100 views from search, about 10 of those views became leads. She offers a free gift at the end of her video. And so out of 100 views, 10 people would get that free gift and give Noelle the contact information so she could nurture them and continue that relationship. Well, out of those 10 leads, 3 of them wanted to have a conversation with her. So she'd have a discovery call with them. And out of those 3 conversations, one person would be a fit and would be interested in that 6-month coaching program, and they'd buy the $10,000 program. So that's the math. If you've got a business
Mm-hmm.
behind it, every business is going to be different. But those were real numbers.
And so I guess this kind of leads into, well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but to cover it, the leaf strategy. How does that play into this? How does that maybe differ from traditional SEO or strategies on YouTube? How does your team of 35 come into play with all this and all that? So yeah, walk us through kind of how you do it and what you do.
Yeah. So, my background was SEO and doing keyword research. And so as I kind of found this new approach, I had to describe it differently because people were confused. And so I created a tree analogy. And so I'll explain that. What the big difference is with SEO and keyword research, you're worried about keywords and they're typically like a 2-word phrase or a 4-word phrase, or you could get into long tail, which is like 5 words or 6 words. I was going much longer than that. 8 words, 9 words, 10 words, but specifically questions. So I think it's better to call it question research instead of keyword research, and you use them differently. You don't have to stuff your keywords anywhere. You don't have to worry about that anymore because search engines and answer engines are much better. They know what our content's about without us having to tag things or put in metadata. So what the tree analogy is you have your core area of expertise, and that's like the trunk of the tree. And if you were to break down your expertise into different categories, those are like the different branches. And if you keep going out further, the leaves represent these very specific questions. So you can look at one branch and look at all the questions on that branch and compare it to all the questions on a branch next to it. And as you look close and you look at groups of questions like this, you really get a sense of who these people are and if they're the right demographic, if they're people that are likely to need you now, or maybe they're likely to use your services down the road. And you can really hone in and say, this branch and this branch and this branch, I want to own. I want to dominate. These other branches, I'm going to ignore for now so that I can own these branches. And so it's a very tactical and predictable way of like just within a matter of a few months, having no traction on Google, YouTube, or ChatGPT, to then just a few months later being the go-to thought leader in your space. Like when people are asking questions on those branches, they find you every single time. So that's what the tree analogy and the leaf strategy is.
I want to take this to the next step because I want to talk about the actual practical actions that are done. So great, you identify this niche, you start to get the branches and stuff, but then it's like, what are the elements of a great video? How do you do the keywords, like you mentioned, long tail, that type of stuff? And, when you go into YouTube Studio and set it up and everything so that it's, really indexed well or catches attention. So I want to do that, but we're going to take just a quick break and we'll come right back and then we'll dig into all of that. Misfit Entrepreneurs, I want to tell you about an amazing resource that will have tremendous impact on your business and your revenue. I have used this solution in multiple businesses and it has made an incredible difference. Let me start by asking you something. Do you know how much it costs your business when just one salesperson doesn't step up to deliver? Do you really know? The cost can easily exceed 6 figures for just one bad hire, not just from the time, effort, and resources in hiring them, but from the lost business and downtime as well, as you have to go find a new salesperson and everything surrounding that. And the last thing any growing business can afford is to have a failed hire, especially in sales, the revenue driver for the company. But what if there was a way to know someone checked all the boxes of a great sales hunter and closer before you ever hired them? That's the solution that I found from a company called Sales Drive. They have created a solution called Drive Test. It's a powerful hiring tool that separates high-performance salespeople from pretenders by measuring the most critical personality trait needed for success in sales: drive. Drive is composed of 3 non-teachable traits shared by all top producers: the need for achievement, competitiveness, and optimism. And knowing who has drive before the interview dramatically increases your chances of selecting salespeople who will produce for you while avoiding those costly bad hires. I've used the solution and it works. In fact, it works so well, I've referred them to every company that I work with. And they've created a very special offer so that you can try them for free as well. You can get a free drive test assessment today at www.misfitentrepreneur.com/sales drive. That's misfitentrepreneur.com/sales drive, all one word. Start using the drive test in your hiring and never hire a bad salesperson again. Okay, so Nate, before the break, you were talking about the leaf strategy and how you look at these branches and then decide which branches to really focus on to build, really that authority in a niche. But there's obviously the work that has to be done with each video that's created. And, the thing that I like about how you approach things is it's very deliberate. Most people, when it comes to like YouTube and stuff, are just posting videos and things like that. It's not so deliberate, right? Everything that you kind of espouse is very deliberate in how it works. So with that in mind, like if you're coaching a client, like how do you determine what a topic for a video is? What should be in a video, right, that you record? How long should the video be on average? And then how do you set it up in YouTube Studio to make sure that it is grabbing attention. Like, walk us through that process. Maybe that's what your experts are doing on behalf of your clients, but take us through that.
Yeah. So there's a lot there, and I'll guide you through
Mm-hmm.
all the steps. So, um, when we decide to muster up the courage to jump on YouTube, we try and think of, okay, what's going to be exciting? What are people going to want to hear? But ultimately, what we typically see is, this is a topic I'm excited to share. This is a topic I'm excited to make a video about. And so that's the content we put on YouTube. Sometimes that content does well in terms of it being liked by your friends and it being shared, but it doesn't really work well for lead generation. So many people and I've experienced this too, we've had content go viral and yet it doesn't generate a single lead, not a single one. We could have a million views with 0 leads. And so the shift has to be creating content that my dream clients want me to create. These people that I wish knew about me because I have a solution for them. So I'll give you an example. One area that I've done some digging is improving productivity. So if any listeners are productivity experts, this will directly apply to you, but hopefully it makes sense for all businesses, all niches. So I found a couple questions when digging in improving productivity. I found one that's how to improve productivity in a dental office. And I'm going to paraphrase it, but there's another one like how to improve productivity on a construction site. So 2 very different audiences, but asking a similar question. So I couldn't just, like in the past, people would say, hey, can you help me SEO my content? And you would add metadata, keywords, backlinks, and somehow, by tricking the algorithm, you'd build authority and have your stuff rank at the top. So that died about 10 years ago, back in 2015 is when that really stopped working. Today you can't SEO content. You have to do the SEO, or I would call it AEO, answer engine optimization. You have to do that before you make your content now. So by doing the question research and by finding these specific questions, now I know the title of my video. So for the first video, it's how to improve productivity for in a dental office. And the second one is how to improve productivity for a construction site. Those are the titles of 2 separate videos. And so in one video, I'm going to answer their question, but I'm going to use their terms. I'm going to talk to the dentist. I'm going to talk to the receptionist. I'm going to talk about their patients. And then in the next video, I'm going to be talking to the construction team and talking about the site and the equipment. I'm going to be talking about their clients or customers, not patients, right? So think about it from the viewer's perspective. Somebody on this dental team or the construction team, they go to Google or they're going to ChatGPT or YouTube and they're typing in questions. And then your video pops up that's like, oh, that's exactly what I'm searching for. Because it's so directed to them, of course they're going to click on it. And of course they're going to watch it all the way to the end. Well, the YouTube algorithm sees that and says, okay, even if it was only 10 people per month that did that search, those 10 people are like the dream audience, and YouTube recognizes that. So then it goes to work and it will bring the next 10 the month after that, next 10, 3 months later, but it will also reach out to other dentists and kind of suggest your video to these other dentists or construction team. So YouTube does all the heavy lifting for you. You've just got to do that work ahead of time. So you've got to find the question first. Then you've got to film individual videos answering those specific questions. And we could go into the details of, like, you want a talking head video. We're not talking about creating a Mr. Beast style video that's super entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
We want to create a video that just really answers their question. And the more conversational it is compared to a presentation, the better. So you could record a selfie video on your phone as if you're on Zoom or FaceTime with somebody. That's going to be really valuable to the person that's asking you that specific question. So when you post that video to YouTube, we already know the title. You don't have to worry about the tags. There's strategy for description, but it's not to help with getting the video ranked. It has to do with if people are going to take the time to click that little down arrow or the read more button and open up the description, what are they looking for? So give them what they're looking for. Give them, information about you, links to your website. You can kind of have it be like your LinkedIn bio or something like that in your
Mm-hmm.
description. Um, and there's obviously, I skipped the step of editing, right? So you've got to edit the video. Don't worry about all the fancy animations or transitions. Just keep it simple. If you're a beginner to editing and you try putting in fancy text or effects or transitions, it will look amateur. And you don't want it to look amateur. Just have it look clean. Um, it'll take some time. If your average length is another question you asked, I would just shoot for about 10 minutes. So that's enough time to give a real deep answer, to give them real value. And it's enough time for them to spend with you to have them build some trust in you and get to know you and be more likely to watch more of your videos. Because the more that they've seen of you, they're like, oh yeah, this person. And you want to put bias in your videos. You want some people to be turned away because other people will be drawn to you and your experience and your biases, and you'll filter in the right people. At the end of the video, you need a call to action, just one. So don't worry about inviting people to subscribe or to comment or to like. You can do that earlier in your video, but not at the end. At the end, you have one call to action, but you have two choices. And there are exceptions to this, but here's the main two choices. One is to go get your free gift. Um, now that you've learned what we've talked about in this video, I've got a resource that's going to help you implement that. Go to my website, right? And you can tell them what that free gift is. Option number two is, hey, now that you've watched this video, there's another video that I know you're going to love to watch next. The video's about this. Here's the title. Go click that video now. Right. And so that's kind of the core of the structure of the video. Upload it. We've talked about the title. You don't have to really worry about the tags. YouTube will automatically transcribe your video. And just by doing that, you come back the next day and that video will be ranking at the top of YouTube. Now, are there any additional steps? Not really. You don't have to do any paid advertising to promote it. You don't have to share it with your friends. You don't have to email it out to your list, but you can create a blog from it pretty easily. So if you have a blog on your website, you can embed that YouTube video on that page. I would say just put it at the top and then take the YouTube transcript into ChatGPT and say, hey, rewrite this as a blog post, and then paste the blog post on your blog page and save that. And now you've got the YouTube video ranking on YouTube. The blog post will rank in Google, and both of them will be referenced and indexed by ChatGPT.
Yeah, and I think that's a key thing, is putting the video on your, I guess, on your website does help with the indexing and everything too.
Yep.
You mentioned something earlier. I just want to come back to it. It's around the long tail keywords, because I think I've heard you say that you can use long tail keywords to like effectively dominate a niche in like 4 months. So is there anything like when you're uploading or when you're putting, because you said don't worry about tags, but is there anything you put in the content that when you are in YouTube Studio, if you will, that are like the long tail keywords or anything like that
So when
can
I talk about long tail keywords, I would go even longer. Like if you search online and ask what is a long tail keyword, you'll typically find it's like a 5-word phrase. I think we all know what a keyword is. It's just the topic you want to rank for. Well, with this question research, we'll call it an ultra long keyword, ultra
Mhm.
long tail, right? We're talking 8 words, or even today we're finding tons of questions that are 10 words. And I'll give you a real example. So this last year, a man named Reagan Archibald started working with me. He's a peptides expert. He's a men's health
Mm.
expert with peptides. And I don't know anything about peptides, but I researched one that he had me look up, tesamorelin, something like that. Um, we found, and I don't know the exact number, so I'll just say 50. We found about 50 different questions people are asking online about tesamorelin. Really long, specific questions. Can it be used for this or that, or in this circumstance, or whatnot? Tons of these questions. And when we initially searched, we typed in every single one of those questions individually on YouTube, and he didn't show up, and he didn't show up, and he didn't show up. So we systematically started going after each one of these, meaning making 50 different videos on this
Mm-hmm.
subject, answering every one of these questions. And within, well, a month after we started posting these, we saw, now out of the 50, and again, I'm just paraphrasing the numbers here, but he might have ranked for 7 of them. The next month, now he's up to 17 of them. Then the next month, I think it kind of stayed level. Month after that, he was up to like 40 out of the 50, and then he's up to 46 out of the 50. And so there really is a clear path. You have to hone in on the right niche, find all these specific, very ultra long tail questions, and just systematically go answer
And
each one.
so how does
Go ahead.
somebody do that? Where do they go to find the questions?
Yeah, there's 2 tools that I found that will do this. One is SEMrush, and the other is ahrefs.com. They're both premium tools. There are tools out there that are free, like Answer the Public, but Answer the Public, I found it to be pretty limiting. You might find 10 questions, where on SEMrush you might find 1,000. And the other thing is Answer the Public doesn't have the search volume, and so you don't want to go after
Mm.
questions that don't have search volume either. And I am an affiliate for SEMrush, and so I can share a 2-week free trial if listeners go to herokeywordtool.com. That actually will give you a 2-week free trial for their whole suite of tools. The tool specifically that you're looking for in there is called the Keyword Magic Tool. So even though SEO is completely changed, they still have an SEO tab in the tool. So click on SEO, and then you'll find the Keyword Magic Tool. And if you type in your topics, such as improving productivity or testimorelin, then you can turn on the questions button, and you can turn on the word count filter. You can make sure you're finding questions that are 8, 9, or 10 words long. And that's what we've done. And then we systematically make videos for every one of those
Mm.
questions, and you end up owning that space.
Well, that's great. We'll put that link in the show notes for everybody to find it too. So if they want to test it out, that's really cool. All right. So people hearing this, they're going, okay, I get it. Like I said, it's deliberate in a lot of ways. It's, scientific too, and how you figured it out. But what if somebody like a coach or a speaker sitting there and they're like, yeah, it's great, but man, this is overwhelming for me. I'm camera shy, right? How do you get somebody to go, all right, I'll create the videos and perform and build that confidence to do it, for 50 videos or whatever it takes.
It's a great question. I mean, I could give the answers of, it comes with practice. You'll get more comfortable the more you do it, and that's 100% true. The other part I'll share, though, is it's entrepreneurship itself is a challenge, right? If entrepreneurship was easy, everyone would do it. And I've found that the people that have the most success with this are they already have a business in place. They're already profitable. They already have momentum, and so they've already put themselves out there, and they've overcome a lot of those, uh, you know, uh, comfort zone challenges, right? So public speakers, they do really well with this strategy, or coaches or consultants, they do really well, or even people that have they've been used to podcasting. They're used to talking. They know how to really,
Mhm.
or they're teachers or they're trainers, right? So uh, all of these different professions that I've mentioned, it takes that courage and that practice to get out of that comfort zone. Now, the reason that I don't want you to create a faceless video on YouTube is it's really hard to build a relationship that way. We want
Right.
people to find your video and to see you and to learn your quirks and to learn, get familiar with the way that you talk, and to see your good grammar and your bad grammar. And I say all the time, or I say gonna all the time, and I
Mhm.
don't edit that. I want to talk naturally so that people feel like, hey, I watched this video of Nate's, but I feel like I know him. I feel like we just had a one-on-one conversation. So you don't have to be a polished keynote presenter. You don't need to pretend to be somebody else. You have an answer to the question. Like, you really do need to have expertise. And I could go into detail on what that looks like, because I think that there's 3 different levels of expertise. Level 1 is you've got the book knowledge, right? You've studied it, you've learned it, you've figured it out, and you know how to do something. Level 2 is you've gone out and actually done it. So now you've applied that knowledge. You were at point A and you got to point B. You've successfully done that. So now it's not just knowledge, but it's wisdom and experience. Well, level 3 is I've taken somebody else from point A and helped them get to point B. That's a whole different skill set to be able to not only do it yourself, but help somebody else do it. Once you're at a level 3 area of expertise, uh, this strategy can help you become the thought leader in your space. This isn't just a marketing tactic, but for somebody who has a level 3 expertise, you can be the number one thought leader in your space. I was just looking this morning at a topic. What was it? It was leadership style, I think. So I was looking up on the leadership tree. I was looking at the branch leadership style. And right now, Simon Sinek and Brian Tracy are the top 2 videos ranking at the top. We know their names. Of course, they're there. But I looked at what they've created, and I looked at the branches or all the different questions or all these different leaf titles, I call them. And I'm like, the path is pretty simple. Any leadership expert that wants to dominate the leadership style branch, here's the path. And it will very easily push down Simon Sinek and Brian Tracy. They'll still be there, but you'll be above them. Right? This really is a path to become the thought leader in your space.
I wanted to ask you more about your entrepreneur journey, but I still have things here. So, I guess at this point, is there a topic or, that we should have covered, or a question that I should have asked you just around this whole strategy or around how to, build this type of business on YouTube that maybe I haven't asked?
Yeah, tell you what, I'm a very visual person, and so a lot of the things that I explain, they make so much sense in my mind because I can see them, but transferring what I see. And so I'll just invite listeners to a webinar that I do most every week. It's a live webinar, and I do Q&A. Listeners can go to theleafstrategy.com. So any other questions, or if they'd like to see a lot of behind the scenes examples and actually how to find those questions in the Keyword Magic tool, I demonstrate all of that. And it's about an hour-long webinar. So theleafstrategy.com. So that would be the best way to wrap that up. And I can answer any questions you have about my entrepreneurial journey or anything else.
Well, great. Yeah, we can link to that so everybody can find that too. We're going to get to your Misfit 3 in a minute, but you've been on this journey and you've had to pivot it multiple times. Obviously, SEO has changed a lot over the years. What have you learned about like the art of the pivot as an entrepreneur and how to adapt to a changing environment now in the age of AI? So what are some of the, the things that you've learned on that journey along the way?
Yeah, it's a good question. I have had many pivots, and I won't say that I've done them perfectly. I went from having a very profitable web design service, but just knowing that I needed to pivot, and I also, kind of an interesting side note, I used to rank at the top of Google for dentist website design and also accountant website design. But as I was discovering this leaf strategy, it didn't really apply to dentists or accountants. It applied more to expert businesses like speakers, coaches, authors, consultants, trainers. And I ended up, like, as I was pivoting and going towards this YouTube strategy, and closing down my web design business, it was really hard to make that change. And I took down those pages of, ranking at the top for dentist website design and whatnot. So anyway, what some advice, or what are some things that I've learned as I've made pivots and whatnot. There's a lot of noise and distraction, or let me call it differently. There's a lot of great ideas. There's a lot of shiny objects. I can't really go to conferences anymore and attend all these sessions because I just get so many different ideas. If I do with that, I have to just take notes. What did I hear? What did I feel? And I have to really look at, okay, what is the end result that I want? And what are the steps that I need to take to get there? And most of the time, these shiny objects don't fit. They sound exciting, but they actually lead to a different goal. And so just having clarity on what is my actual goal, and focusing on that and focusing on those steps. So, I mean, I've had my company 16 years now. honestly, it took me about 9.5 years to get past the financial stress phase. Because I would have, financial highs one month. I might bring in 20
Mhm.
grand in a single month, but then bring in zero in month two and zero in month three. And so it's like, okay, maybe I'm not as successful as I was thinking there, because it just averages out and I can barely, pay my team. So anyway, that's one lesson is really just, I don't know if it's keeping the blinders on or whatnot. Um, the other thing that I think is a trait that is a must for entrepreneurship is the stick to itness. Just when you
Mhm.
have a goal and you're purpose driven behind a goal, you're going to hit failure along the way, and just the ability of just keep going, take that as a learning experience. Um, you know, I, I, I I remember, and these were hard times. Those first 9.5 years of financial stress.
Mm.
I mean, here's what one of those stress moments looked like. I needed money, and I went to my mom and I asked my mom if I could borrow $5,000. She said to me, "Nate, why don't you just get a job?" And it hurt because I was working harder. It's not because I was being lazy and not wanting to work 40 hours a week. I was putting in 60 or 70 hours a week trying to
Right.
and I'm glad that I stuck with it. That I, because that advice, she had the best of intentions. My mom just didn't want me to struggle. Why don't I just get a job? This business thing doesn't seem to be working for you. But I stuck with it. And you know, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. But for those that are as purpose driven as I've been, yeah, you got to stick with it and just keep trying, keep those blinders on, I guess, to focus
Mhm.
on that end result.
I love that, and it's so in line with so many misfit entrepreneurs that come on this show over time. There's running themes, right? That are consistent, and one of them is really playing the long game and having the grit to see it through. Because there are so many entrepreneurs that end up, and I'm not like it's it's not good or bad, right or wrong, but there's so many that end up being successful, not because they have more talent, not because they have better ideas or anything. They just stuck at it longer where the others went away. And they're the only ones left standing, you know? And there's something to be said for that in an instant world that we live in, right? And because everything's conditioned to instant now, now, now. And I often, use the old quote. I think it's been attributed to Tony Robbins, but I don't know if he's the original one that said it, is that people they overestimate what they can accomplish in a week and underestimate what they can accomplish in a year. I extrapolate that to years, you know, because it's those that keep going, whether it's one step forward, and one, or point 0.8 back or whatever it is, right? It's just a little incremental, tiny, continuous gains over time, and those add up. And eventually you turn around one day and you look behind you and you're like, holy crap, you know? I spent a lot of time in the valleys of entrepreneurship. It's where we spend most of our time. But man, those peaks when we get there make up for all of it, right? And so I kind of hear that through as a theme through your story. It's a great way to end it before we do get to your Misfit 3. So we're going to do that. We're going to take just a quick 1 minute break. We'll be right back with Nate's Misfit 3.
Misfits. People ask me all the time about tools that I use in my life and business to maximize my success. I usually start by telling them one of my most powerful tools is my morning habits. And of course, they look at me somewhat confused. I then explain how important it is for me to center myself and how I begin my day and plan for my success. It's critical to consistent high performance. And it doesn't take me long, about 5 or 10 minutes, because I use a great resource called the 5-Minute Journal. The 5-Minute Journal is the simplest, most effective way I've ever found to start your day in the right mindset, doing the right things, and set yourself up for success. And it is exactly what it says, a 5-minute exercise you can do each day. Let me ask you, if you could reach your next level in your life and business by spending just 5 minutes of focused time a day, would you do it? I bet you would. And I know it works because I've experienced the power of it. And you can get your 5-minute journal simply by going to www.misfitentrepreneur.com/journal. That's misfitentrepreneur.com/journal. Do what I do. Use this amazing resource to give yourself an edge in your performance and your success. Get your 5-minute journal today.
Okay, it's time for Nate's Misfit 3. These are the 3 things that he wants you to take that you can put in your life, your business, make your difference for yourself starting today. And the way that I always frame this to every guest that comes on the show is I say, hey, look, if you were going to leave this earth tomorrow and you could only leave behind your 3 best pieces of wisdom for the generations that come after you to help them live their best life, what would those 3 things be? So, Nate, what are your Misfit 3?
All right. I took a moment to think about what these would be, and I'm going to share them in reverse order, saving number 1 for last. So one is this blueprint or this pathway to become a thought leader. I that's kind of the mission that I've got. That's what we've talked about most on our conversation today. Is there is a path of really having a positive influence in the world, and making the world a better place. And so that's one thing that I'd want to leave and leave a legacy of. Have it written on my tombstone that I've how many thought leaders I've created that have made the world a better place. The second thing is I do have a passion for entrepreneurship. That this, as we were talking about right before that break, entrepreneurship is noble, and the struggles that we go through. We talked about the stick to itness. Well, I look back. Would I trade it? Would I trade all those struggles? And I could say, yeah, I wish I could have accelerated it, but I would not give up the lessons that I learned and the person that I've become in the process. It's been, next to my faith, entrepreneurship has been the biggest path of personal development ever. And that counts, I got a 5-year college degree. That counts all my, formal education or whatnot. I've learned way more in application and in wisdom and what doesn't work and finally what does work. And so I would love to pass on, my passion for entrepreneurship and how noble it is. I do encourage everyone to get on that path, just because of all the benefits and learning and growth. And the third thing that I would want to pass on, and it's taken me, I'm 47, and it's taken me into my 40s to really figure out how to communicate with God and how to hear God's voice. I've gotten to that place where I'm not perfect at it, but I know how to recognize His voice. There's also an adversary out there that wants to trick me and deceive me. And we might chalk things up to voices in our head or just thoughts that come to our mind. And how do we know what is a prompting or an inspiration that's come from God? That's something that I would love to pass on and leave a legacy for.
That's awesome. Great Misfit 3, and love all of them. The second one, I I love it because it's so true. Everything begins and ends with entrepreneurship. We don't have governments because there's no taxes without entrepreneurship. Somebody has to build a business, employ people so taxes can happen, right? People don't have money without entrepreneurship. Everything begins and ends with entrepreneurship. And funny to your last one, God is the ultimate entrepreneur. So, so it's the creator. So it's pretty cool to kind of see how those weave together. If outside of the links that you've already told us about and the places to go, is there anywhere else if people want to find you that they should go to?
I would say the first place is just come join me on my webinar, and then we can chat after that. I mean, you can find me with my name, Nate Woodbury, on YouTube, but the webinar is theleafstrategy.com. That's my highest recommendation.
Perfect. We'll link to that in the show notes, the best show notes in the business for reasons I will talk about more in a second. But first, for those of you that are new to the Misfit Entrepreneur, this is your first episode with us. Welcome. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And I hope you become a regular listener, a regular subscriber. And for all of you that are with us week in and week out, I cannot thank you enough for your support of the show. You are what makes this go in over 100 countries every single week. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And make sure to go out and check out the show notes for this episode. They are the best in the business. Why? Because I do them myself. As part of my personal growth routine, each and every week, I go back through these episodes and I take my best insights, pieces of wisdom, action items that I want to take, and then I share those with you. So go out and check those out. And then go out and give this episode a rating and review. Like and comment on it. Help share Nate's message, because we all know, and I share this in every episode, one great episode can change someone's life. Maybe something that Nate shared today was that missing link you were looking for to get to your next level. So share this with others. And again, Nate, thank you so much for coming on, sharing all your wisdom and insight today.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.